Welcome to lesson 3, a proposal as a conversation. In this lesson, we are going to explore how conversations can easily transfer and translate into proposals for the different genres of writing, whether it be expository, literary, or persuasive. As we go through and kind of discuss the items in this lesson, you'll see, and it'll likely be recalled in your mind, how you have done this before without possibly even knowing that you were crafting a proposal in an outline. So let's dive right in with recap of what a proposal is. So what is an essay proposal? An essay proposal is writing that gives your teacher an opportunity to provide feedback on your topic, argument, or your research goals. A paper proposal requires you to narrow your topic and to begin formulating the argument that you'll make and or the information that you will provide in your essay. Paper proposals help students by redirecting away from a potentially unworkable topic and toward one that is answerable via research. So it allows us to not waste time, right? Thinking that we're going to be writing about one thing, but not having given our proposal to our teacher to approve and to ensure that it is narrowed down enough, right? We don't waste, we save time when we have an approved proposal by a teacher. Lastly, the point of writing a paper proposal is to avoid the problem of finding out too late that your topic or research question isn't going to work, right? Again, that is where it prevents us from wasting time. So let's discuss a proposal as a conversation, right? We construct proposals more often than we think. Proposal construction is not a purely academic activity. We are often constructing proposals in our heads as we drive or go for a walk, or sometimes with another person in the form of a conversation. Here is an example of a proposal as a conversation. So imagine a girl, we'll just name her Ashley, is contemplating writing an email to her boyfriend Eric, telling him she wants to break up with him. Why? Well, Ashley thinks Eric is intolerant of people who are different from him. Since she wants this email to achieve her purpose of breaking up and also provide the reasons why, she's not going to sit down and just dash it off. She's going to talk through it with a friend who happens to be an expert in writing proposals. So in this next illustration, you're going to see how a conversation can easily translate and transfer into a proposal in an outline for writing. Activity 1, a proposal as a conversation. Before we kind of get started and dive in, think about an experience where you have had to talk through something to organize your thoughts around it. Use this experience as background knowledge to help with this activity. So, activity 1, Ashley's friend's side of the conversation will be supplied for you, but you will fill in Ashley's comments based on a bank of responses. Read her friend's question or statement, then choose the best response by dragging it into the empty dialogue balloon that follows her friend's statement. So let's get started. This is Ashley's friend, and this is Ashley, okay? So keep that in mind. I've kind of color-coded their thought bubble so that you kind of see who is saying what. And then the bubbles down here are potential responses that Ashley can use to respond to her friend. So the conversation starts out with Ashley's friend saying, okay, tell me what it is you want this email to do. So we have a few options here. This first option says, fortunately, I've kept a diary where I've recorded almost word for word everything Eric has said in my presence. I'll use 2 examples of each type of intolerance for my reasons. So here she's kind of getting into how she wants to organize explaining her reasons of intolerance. Well, I still want to be friends with him. I would like to think that maybe after reading this, he will think twice about what I'm objecting to and possibly make some effort to change. This response sounds more like the outcome that she wants to have from this email. So I don't think this is where she starts. Here we have, Eric and I have been good friends for several months now and have been dating for several weeks. Eric is a very nice person and is fun to be with most of the time. I wish things were working out better between us, but it's just not working for me. I feel strongly that it is only fair to Eric to write this email and to tell him why I want to do this. So this is her explaining maybe some positive things between them, but then also why it's still necessary for her to write this email. But her friend is asking, what do you want the email to do? Let's take a look at this very last piece of text. In this email, I'm going to make clear that I want to break up with Eric because of his intolerance for the people whom he considers different. So the conversation, this seems like the most appropriate bubble to respond to her friend, right? Okay, tell me what it is you want this email to do. In this email, so she starts off, right? And she explains, I'm going to make clear that I want to break up with Eric because of his intolerance for people whom he considers different. So she's setting the purpose for the email to start. Okay, let's see how her friend responds. She says, next, now tell me something about how you met. How long have you been together and what you like about him? You want to make it clear to him that you have considered this carefully and that you know what breaking up will mean. Also, we want to consider what sort of email Eric is going to respond to most favorably, considering the news. So here she's kind of framing the news and her argument because she wants it to be received by her audience, who is Eric, right? Remember in the previous lesson where we talked about the mom being offended by the way you say something, right? The audience is going to impact how you deliver the message based on how you want them to receive it. So the friend wants Ashley to tell her something about their relationship. Start with some good news, right? Start with something positive. Here are our options. We have, well, I still want to be friends with him. I would like to think that maybe after reading this, he will think twice about what I'm objecting to and possibly make some effort to change. Again, we said that sounds more like the way to close. Here we have, again, fortunately, I've kept a diary where I recorded almost word for word everything Eric has said in my presence. I'll use 2 examples of each type of intolerance for my reasons. So this necessarily is not about their relationship or their background. That means that this is likely going to be our best answer to respond to her friend. Eric and I have been good friends for several months now and have been dating for several weeks. Eric is a very nice person and is fun to be with most of the time. I wish things were working out better between us, but it's just not working for me. I feel strongly that it is only fair to Eric to write this email and tell him why I want to do this. So her friend tells her to explain something positive about their relationship, and that's exactly what Ashley does in her response, right? She's explaining how they met and how he is a nice person and he's fun to be with, but it's just this one thing that bothers her. Let's see how her friend responds. She says, that's good. You're going to be very clear. But if you want him to understand why you're breaking up with him, you need to make your reasons for breaking up clear. What are you going to write for the reasons? So now she's asking Ashley to think about, well, what exactly is it about the intolerance that you don't like? Okay. So we still have the options about her hoping that he'll change here. Here we also have options about how she's kept a diary. She says, I'll use 2 examples of each type of intolerance for my reasons, right? And here, that's exactly what Ashley's friend is asking her about. What are you going to write for the reasons? So in our next conversation where Ashley responds, she says, fortunately, I've kept a diary where I've recorded almost word for word everything Eric has said in my presence. I'll use 2 examples of each type of intolerance for my reasons. So this is where Ashley is bringing in her evidence. Let's see how her friend responds as the expert on proposals. So she says, all of that sounds good. Now, how are you going to present these reasons? Are you just going to list them? That wouldn't be a good plan. You should give him examples of intolerance so he knows what you mean in each case. That's a much better idea. So let's see. She advises Ashley to not just list them, but explain them with examples. So we have 2 options down here. This is the one about still wanting to be his friend. Let's take a look here. First, I'll define intolerance for him so he knows what I mean by that word. Then I'll give him 4 different types of intolerant talk that I find offensive. I'll talk about his intolerance of people who dress differently from him and about how he can't tolerate people who listen to different music from what he likes. I'll mention his intolerance of my mother's cooking, and finally, I'll discuss his intolerance of my dog. How can he not like my dog? I think that answers what the friend is requesting, right? you can't just list them. You have to give examples. And here, Ashley has given examples. People who dress differently, who don't like the music he likes, his mom's cooking, and her dog. So that's the best response that she can give to her friend in regard to having examples of the intolerance that she doesn't like. Let's see how the friend responds. That sounds like a good plan. How are you going to end this email? Now, remember, Ashley started the proposal by being positive, right? I like him. He's fun to be around. He's a good person. We've been dating for some time, right? And so now she's going to close it that same way because she has to be careful about how Eric receives it and the outcome that she wants to have. She doesn't want to gain an enemy in Eric. So let's see how she responds. Well, I still want to be friends with him. I would like to think that maybe after reading this, he will think twice about what I'm objecting to and possibly make some effort to change. Her friend responds, I think you have a strong proposal for writing the email. I think you should go for it. Let me know how he receives it. Thank you. I'll let you know how it goes. Talk to you soon. Now here, for students who prefer to see kind of a relay of the conversation outside of the thought bubbles, this gives you a more linear back and forth so you can see what Ashley's friend said and then what Ashley said in blue if you need to refer to it a second time. So this is just a recap of the conversation on the next 2 slides. And on the slide after that, we get into your actual exit ticket. So your exit ticket is going to be lesson 3 exit ticket, create your own proposal as a conversation. So to do this, you're going to recall a time when you had to persuade or convince someone of something. Perhaps it was your parent for something you wanted them to buy or to allow you to go to an event that you wanted to attend. You're going to create a persuasive proposal and outline, like the one between Ashley and her friend, via the conversation to experience the ease of writing a persuasive text. So in the next slide, I'm going to just go ahead and outline the flow of this conversation. So let's see, outlining a proposal as a conversation. So you may start with stating what you want your writing to do. Okay, because that is the first thing that Ashley's friend asked her, right? What do you want this to do? Then she said, tell me something about how you met, right? Consider the type of email that Eric is going to respond most favorably to. So here, you're going to consider your audience and how you want your audience to respond. Be sure to craft a message they will receive. Okay, so that's going to be our second step. After that, Ashley's friend so that's good. Right now, tell me your reasons. Right now, this is where you give your reasons. So here we go. Right, provide reasons that support your argument or the thing you are trying to persuade your reader about, right? Use examples, not a list. Okay, so that was the piece of advice that Ashley's friend gave next. And then she said, close with the outcome you want to have happen. Be sure to consider your audience. So you can use this as a guide when crafting your own proposal as a conversation for your exit ticket for lesson 3.